Well, hello again to our viewers, and we want to welcome you to another program of Empower Health, the program where we empower you to improve your overall health and well-being as we continue these conversations with Dr. Lionel Gaskin Myers. First off, I want to thank all of the people who continue to give us some very positive comments about the program. You know, doc, people I meet on the streets and in normal day-to-day, you know, going about and so on, and who have really expressed real positive comments and you know, ideas about the program and how much it has benefited them, you know. So I just wanted to put that out there and, you know, to encourage you to continue looking at the program, because there are so many things, you know, that people are concerned about as it affects their overall health and well-being, that we will, you know, get to some of those topics in time, and as we continue to share this information to you, and I might add the kind of information that is not, you know, readily available in the normal scheme of things, because you know, Doc is always doing research, looking at the latest trends and the latest learnings that come out of some of the most prestigious institutions of learning in the world. So I just thought I might say that, Doc, I don't know if that has been your experience.
Now I can't go through the door, my head get too big.
You know, but we want to, yes, thank you again. And today, of course, we will continue. You know, we started the program last time around talking about soul, mind, body renewal. In fact, your entity is called Soul, Mind Renewal, Soul, Mind, Body Renewal Institute. So we were dissecting it and trying to see, you know, the connection between all of these facets.
You went and opened a can of worms. No, but seriously, you know, it's strange that we would talk about health, and when you say health, we're so disconnected from the universe. As human beings, we have gone into what I call is the Newtonian stupidity, that we really have no concept. So that it's interesting that when you say, well, you know, why do you call your organization Soul, Mind, Body? And you start and you say, well, if I'm going to talk about soul, I really have to put into context, as human beings, where we are. Why do we have a concept of space? What is a concept of space?
Yes.
What is a concept of time? Why do some people see time as something that they can't fulfill, and some people could take it so laid back that they appear to breeze through life? What causes this kind of miasmic trap that we're living in, that we sometimes question?
I like that word.
What is the reason?
Trap.
So you can't start to talk about health unless you look at where you're living.
Yes.
I remember I was doing a radio program a few months ago, and I talked about the cycles of the moon, and that a woman follows the cycle of the moon. Her periods run the cycles of the moon. And at the end of the show, a guy called me and he said to me, he says, that is absolute nonsense. I don't believe that.
And this was off air now.
Yes, he's called
Yes.
I've finished.
Yes.
You know, I'm taking questions, and I couldn't believe what he said for a little while.
Was this a medical person?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It was a person. He said, that's absolute nonsense.
Okay.
And I said to him, I says, how many women you have in your house? He says, my wife and 3 daughters. And he says, why? I said, well, you live in a house with women and you don't know them. You don't know anything about them.
Yes.
If you don't know that the menstrual cycle, because he said they're all big, that the menstrual cycle follows the cycle of the moon. And he went very quiet. I said, go and check. And then it dawned upon me that people live totally disconnected. They think that everything that happens to them here. We have a woman who'll come to me and say, I'm a dieting, you know, and I lost 2 pounds in about a week, and then the next week I gain it back. and I would laugh. They say, you're laughing at me? I says, no. I says, do you know that the moon controls water on our planet. No, what do you mean by that? I say, well, if you go and sit down by the sea, you'll see that the sea rises and it falls.
Yes.
And sometimes it rises more than at other times. That's because of the position of the moon. And we are made up of about 70% water.
Yes.
I say, so when the moon is busy pulling the water up, it is not only pulling the water up in the sea, it is pulling the water up inside you. So at that point, your body holds 2 pounds more water than it would normally hold a week later. I say, so when you weigh yourself and is the darker the moon, and the body gets rid of the water, boy, I lose 2 pounds. And when you 2 weeks later and the moon start rising, and you watch your weight go back up, that is just the normal water cycle in your body. It has nothing to do with weight loss or weight gain.
Oh, yes. Or dieting.
Or dieting. I say, now if you put the diet on top of that, then you will get an idea. So it's really an average that you have to look at. She said, well, I didn't know that. And that's what has happened.
Yes.
We are disconnected. Things are going on around us, and we don't have a clue.
But what do you think has brought about that disconnection, as it were? I mean, I know one of it is largely due to lack of knowledge and so on. And as I hinted at the beginning of the program, this knowledge sometimes is not readily available, or for some reason has been largely hidden from our consciousness.
Well, the way I look at it is that we had societies, and we had societies that was based on tradition, as some people now call it superstition. We're now beginning to realize that a lot of those superstitions were based on fact that we didn't understand. Now our science is catching up, and it's saying, oh, is that what that meant? You know. And as we go along explaining things, you will begin to understand why we have certain practices in our society that nobody seems to understand.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Yes. I think it just happens, or it's just by happenstance.
I remember going to a Baptist thing and prayer meeting, and they had the candidate, and the candidate wanted to do something, and they have the wheel in the church, and the mother came up and she spun the wheel, and she spun the wheel anti-clockwise, and she put the girl underneath it, and she kept spinning the wheel, and they were praying. So when she was finished, I said, Mother, why you spin the wheel anti-clockwise? Why didn't spin it the other way? And I was waiting for a really erudite answer, right? And she said to me, I don't know. I said, why you do it? She said, well, that is how my teacher taught me, and her teacher taught her.
Oh, yes.
So I smiled. I smiled, and she says, son, you're laughing at me. I said, no, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. She says, what do you mean? I say, well, everything. I say, if you go and look at your sink, you fill it with water, right? I say, and when you pull the plug out, you will see that the water, in order to go down the hole, it spins. I say, and when you look at the spin will be clockwise, going away from you. I say, if you went under that and you looked up, it will be coming down upon you, and it will be coming down anti-clockwise. So if you wish to bring things from the heavens, you will bring things by spinning the energy of the person anti-clockwise coming down. You know, I say in the old Jewish system, they use that to build the Merkaba. She said, what's that? I said, protection. She said, I don't know anything about that. You know, so at that point I just say, yeah, all right. You know, yes. I didn't want to continue.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Yeah. So that is the thing that we have, is that we have all these practices, and all these practices were rooted in scientific fact. We go to the pharmacy and we buy vitamins. Vitamin B, vitamin B1, vitamin B2, vitamin B6, and
from
big bottle.
From A to Z.
Right. B100, you know.
From A to Z.
And we buy this big bottle of vitamins, and you put it on the thing, and you tell your wife, now I'm bad.
Yeah. Better than bad.
And you start to take these vitamins, and for a day or two, it look like you're feeling good.
Yes.
And after about a week, your wife, you say, well, the only thing I notice is that I pee in yellow after. Whereas if you was eating food with certain things, you would feel better.
Yes.
So you have to tell people, most of those vitamins are made from synthetic products. they seem to have the same
Properties and so on,
spectrographic
yeah.
spectrographic compounds. So when you look on the spectrograph, which tells you you have so much calcium and so much that, both of them lying in the same place. You say, they're the same. What you don't know is that the ones that are manufactured have a right-handed spin. The ones that God create have a left-handed spin, anti-clockwise. When you take a right-handed spin thing, it don't do nothing to the body. So the fellas who selling you that based on what they see on the spectrograph and not what is best for life.
Yes, yes.
Now we're beginning to understand that. Like the other day, somebody come to me and they say, I buy this. This is the best they have on the market. I say, okay. She said, but I want you to look at it and tell me if it's good. So I looked at it. I looked at the B12, and the B12 says cyanocobalamin. So I smiled. She says, what are you smiling at? And then I looked at the, and it's a very famous vitamin that we have. And the vitamin E in it is DL alpha, which is synthetic. So the cyano is synthetic and the DL is synthetic. The DL doesn't do anything for you. If you take that to try and get vitamin E's, forget it. Similarly, the cyanocobalamin, in order for the body to use it, it has to go into the liver. And the liver, being a marvelous little workshop, takes the cyanocobalamin and changes some of it back to methylcobalamin if it has the cofactors to do it. And out of that, you're lucky if you get 1 or 2%. What do you do with the rest? The body has to dispose of it. So you overload the body to dispose of something that is basically toxic. You get my drift?
Yes.
So I tell her, I said, this vitamin that you have here is almost useless. And that is what we have right through the whole system, a lack of what you call detailed knowledge. And that detailed knowledge starts, and it starts from where light comes from and how light is, because we are bodies of light. We are bodies of, everything in our body is electromagnetic, every single action. I mean, you might say, let's eat more of this, but that the body has to break it down, tear it apart, and use the vibrations inside it. And that is why we start from, and God said. And God said.
Yes.
If God didn't say, we wouldn't be here.
We wouldn't be here. And we wouldn't be here.
So let's start from when God said. You know, and God said, let there be light. But before he said that, it says, first there was the darkness.
Yes.
And the darkness moved upon the waters, or it traveled on the deep, or
yes,
howsoever.
Yes, well, some books have it as upon the face of the deep.
Right, howsoever the translator
it means basically the same thing.
Trying to say.
Yes, so the deep can be considered
so you had the deep,
waters.
You had the deep, and the deep is the waters.
Right.
And then upon the deep you had the darkness. And the darkness moved upon the waters.
Right.
So some movement took place. And in the process of that movement taking place, God said, let there be light. So you say, all right. Now, most people will read that and they wouldn't even bother to try to think, well, what is being said there? You know. But if you say that and you say, they had the darkness and they had the waters, and God said, right away you realize that God here, and the darkness there, and the waters there. So God is not even part of that. It's something way outside that. And then the darkness moved upon the waters. So obviously the waters is a more basic thing than the darkness. And the darkness moved.
Yeah.
When the darkness moved, it caused light to come out. In some of the old Jewish explanations, they say that when the waters moved, the waters created what was a vacuum. It created like a sucking out. So what they're saying is that the waters moved, and the waters moved in a vortex. And it caused the darkness to come down and spin. And that spin caused light to come out. Now, that sounds all right, but it doesn't make much sense. But we know that light is electrical energy, photons and things like that. And it seems to suggest that the darkness is magnetic energy. Now, Mr. Einstein come along and he says electromagnetic energy moves at the speed of light. And nothing could go faster than the speed of light. To go into absolute thing, and everybody fall for that. Like everything that we do, we always want to think that that is the final.
Right.
When Newton finished his mechanical theory and he wrote all the various mathematics and things, everybody says, well, we have it figured, there's nothing else to figure. And then Curie and them come along and say, well, we have this piece of matter here, and it just keep radiating energy all the time. You say, you can't do that. Yeah. It can't do that, because according to Newtonian physics, it cannot do that.
Yes.
And when they put it there, it started doing that, so somebody had to now go and invent quantum theory and quantum mechanics and quantum physics and all that to try to explain. Then they bring in a term called radiation. Now it is beginning to come out that the electrical field travels at the speed of light and the magnetic field travels at the speed of light squared. So when you have an interaction between the two of them and they become electromagnetic energy, they always make a vortex, because one field is traveling faster than the other, and so it tears it up. You could understand that? It's the old case of when you're young and you're going to go over a patch and you get your piece of wood and you make your top. You ever make a top?
Yes, of course.
All right, and I just put you out if you tell me no.
Of course, man.
Now I had an advantage on you. My father had a machine shop.
Okay.
So when I finished, I used to go and take my top. And I used to drill the hole in my top. I ain't gonna put no big nail. So when you do so, you pound the nail, the whole top split open. As we've had happen many times, right? Everybody standing around, you say, boy, that's a nice top, boy. It go spin good. And as you put the nail in it, it go down.
Yes, yes.
I ain't doing that. I go in and drill my little hole, and then I go tap the nail in.
Yes, yes.
Right? So and you wrap your string on it. And when you spin, the pull of the string, because one is moved, the string is moving faster than top, causes the top to spin. Not only does it cause the top to spin, it also causes the top to go around in a circle.
Circle as well, yes, yes.
So that's the same thing that is happening to anything that comes off there. So the light comes off and the light begins to spin and things begin to coalesce. The light begins to coalesce and you get solid. And out of the solid and the solid spinning around each other and things like that, you begin to get life. And all of that happens, and all of that happens inside myriads of different vibrations and different frequencies in a certain range. And out of that you get galaxies and you get planetary systems and things like that. And then on the planetary system, like little fleas, you have us. Right? So we are
we are big in the scheme of things.
We're not even minuscule.
Yes.
But the arrogance that we have is to think that we're
big.
We're big.
Yeah. We're big in the dance.
So, I tell everybody, you see, anytime you feel big, go outside on a dark night when it has stars. Carry a deck chair outside. Yeah. Don't rush it. Yeah. Lie down and watch the stars. And then imagine that star, if you travel 186,000 miles per second and you travel for 10,000 years, you can't get there. And then try to put yourself in that perspective. Yes. So once you start doing that, you begin to understand that you really have a reality system that is outside the hustle and bustle of finding something to eat. And human beings really should have a contrast of both.
In terms of,
but we don't.
In other words, it's scrambling to live every day. Yes, I know.
And then you have some people that spend their whole life scrambling and grabbing.
Yes, yes.
And then when they're ready to die, I remember sitting down once with somebody in this town who was very rich. I shall not call any names. And he dying, and he went all over the world trying to find somebody to fix his heart. And he was talking one day with the guy who worked for him, and I happened to be there because I was fixing some equipment for them, putting in some stuff. And he says, I am not ready to die. I have plenty things to do.
Yes,
right?
yes.
God can't do me this. But God did him that. But the point about it is that he died and he left everything.
Yes. Which would
right?
Each and every one of us.
So everything has to have a certain perspective.
Yes.
And you begin to understand that one is that inside ourselves we always feel immortal. And in feeling that we're immortal, on this earth, we do stupid things. And not things that have any relevance to our true immortality.
Yes.
So, when you begin to study the spins, the spin of the earth on itself, which we call a day, the spin of the earth around the sun, which we call a year, the spin of the sun and the planet and the planets around Sirius as a center, a cosmic day. which is 27,000 years or something like that. And then you have bigger and bigger cycles, and then you have one cycle of the galaxy, which is 985 million years or something like that. So if we've done 6 or 7 days, we've done about 13 or 14 billion years, you know, and we're going down. If that is the case, then the next part where they say, and God took a day to create the oceans, doesn't mean the puny little day that we have probably.
24-hour period.
Yeah, it might mean a galactic day. That's the time that the galaxy takes the spin. In which case, each of God's days in this galaxy would mean 900 million years. It places, and that's why in the Bible it says 1,000 years in the sight of a man is not even a day in the sight of God.
Yes, indeed.
And then you begin to understand that we make interpretations on scientific statements based on our own purely knowledge,
perspective of things
that we don't have. So once you begin to understand that, you begin to understand that somewhere along the line we have a code that probably these fellows wrote down stuff, and they wrote down stuff in codes.
Yeah.
You know, it's very important for us to understand it, because the fundamental idea of consciousness is probably reflected in that. I remember many years ago reading, and it says Moses was out in the desert and a burning bush appeared. And the burning bush talked to him. Nowadays they put him in St. Anne's for that. Right? And he talked back to the burning bush. And then when he finished, he asked the burning bush, he said, "Which God are you?" And he says, I'm the big dude. I'm the God himself.
Yes.
He said, "What's your name?" He says, "We translate it, I am that I am."
I am, yes.
In the old Jewish thing is translated, it is Eheye Asher Eheye. So I asked somebody, I said, "Well, why did God have to pronounce his name twice? Eheye Asher Eheye. I am that I am." He says, "I don't know. But being the person I am, I started asking the question, be the person that I am." Right?
Yes, that is.
Right. And then it dawned upon me, after a few explanations, that the only way that God could know that it was God is that it had to have a reflection of itself. So that when you look at the first chapter of Genesis, and God creates, going on the line and creating. And incidentally, that is not a masculine masochistic thing. You know, I once had a rabbi explain it to me. He says, any force that is moving forward in action is masculine. Any force that is passive in action and receiving is female. So the earth is female, and the sun, which is impregnating the earth, is masculine. So everybody have their role to play.
Yes.
So when you look at the galaxy and the galaxy evoluting, which means it is impregnating the darkness, that God is masculine. Whew.
So the earth plays more of a role of submission.
The earth is a woman.
Yes.
The earth takes energy and makes it into life.
Incidentally, the Bible speaks to, you know, about women submitting themselves to.
You see that submitting thing? I ain't using that word at all.
But, you know, I'm just quoting the
I know. But you see that submitting thing? When all them women outside there, when you go down the road, I'm going to run and clout him. Yeah, but basically you're right. When you say submit, if you look at the act of coitus, the woman is in a position where she is receiving, and the man is in a position of where he's giving. So that whole thing is the masculine feminine thing. It doesn't mean to say that one is denigrating and one is uplifting.
That's right.
That's the mistake that we make.
Yes. Well, we should make some of the women understand this, that, you know, it's not a...
I get you. I live in Miami, and me and my wife have a quarrel. She carried on, she was really not rage. So I make a joke. So she run across me and she started to cuff me up in the stomach and boom, and hit me in my chest and thing. So when she finished, I said, "You miss here, you know." She say, "I can't do you nothing. I want to beat you up and I can't beat you up." I say, "You know how to beat me up? Let me tell you how you're going to beat me up." I say, "You come and you say, 'Big boy, Go outside there and do so and so forth. And I say, yes, dear. I say, you're using your power wrongfully.
Yes.
I say, that is your power.
Oh, yeah.
I said, if you know how to exercise that power, no man is standing against you. I say, that is what we don't understand, is that you have pushing force,
Yes.
and you have acquiescing force.
Yes.
But that acquiescing force is most of the time way more powerful
Indeed.
than the other one.
Yes. Yes.
And we laugh about that. So that when you get to this thing and you say that when you go through the 6 days and you get to the 7th day, God decide to rest. In other words, God stopped pushing, he stopped creating. And he let what he has created do what he was doing, which was to carry on the creation.
Yes. Makes sense.
So when they started carrying on the creation, what did God do? He sat and he marveled. The only way that God would know who he is when he looks at his creation and he marvels. The philosophy of creating and why you create is written right there in the first few sentences. So what is our purpose on this earth? What is our purpose? How do we get self-esteem? How do we get a sense of who we are? When we create.
That's right.
You see,
That's right.
see that? I build that. You see that? I do that. And that has a stamp. It carries your stamp. It has no reality for anybody but you. But if other people have similar dreams,
yes.
then they admire
or
it.
benefit by it.
Or benefit by it.
Yes. Yes.
So you have a substantiation. My mother is in a little old people's home up the road. And I went to see her. And in her room there with her, there's another lady who came in last year. And she apparently is a teacher. And she came in a year ago, and she was probably in her late 80s. And she was very vibrant, and chatty, and everything. And all the visitors come and she sit down and chat. And I went in last week to see my mother. And they were trying to lift her off the bed. And she was mumbling to herself. And I realized that old people's homes are not a good place for old people to be. Because what it does is it shuts them off from life, shuts them off from their creativity.
Yes.
I am sure that if she was in a place where she could go out and talk to young people and tell them what she used to do, that she would still be mentally alive and alert.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know, and I realized
so she should have been in an environment where she has say her grandchildren or
yes,
grandnieces and
Yes,
nephews
yes.
and so yes.
And so growing old is not only a thing of the body, it's also a psychology that is
The mind.
exercised on
Yes.
certain people to make them believe that they're useless. I tell my children, I say, don't ever come and tell me that I old, you know, I useless. No way. I going now fighting, right? I'll drop dead trying to learn something. So once you begin to understand that, you begin to understand the basis of why we're alive. And then you get quotations from that where Christ is going down the road and somebody says to him something about somebody, and he says, let the dead bury the dead. Which is a really curious statement,
right.
because what he's saying is that there are people walking about who are dead.
Spiritually dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I dead?
Yeah.
Is my neighbor dead? Yeah, and let me tell you my definition of dead. You went to school with somebody, they're probably one of the brightest guys in the class, you know? And you leave and you go away and you knock about and you do all kinds of things and you come about. And one day you're coming down the road and you meet, let's call him John.
Say again?
Let's call him, no, wait. I put my foot in that one, right? Let's call him Harry.
Good.
Let's call him Harry. And you're going down the road and you meet Harry. And Harry say, hey John, how you going, boy? And he look at you, and of course you still doing your thing, right? So he said, how you looking so young? You ever notice that the minute you're active, you're young, right?
Yes.
And he say, I say, well, Harry, how you doing? Well, boy, you know, you remember Judy down the road? Well, I get married to she, you know, and we live in a house down the road there, and I have a nice, steady job with the government.
But I'm looking to retire now.
I'm looking to retire, and my children get big. But boy, I can't get over how you're looking so good. You know? And you realize that Harry dead. Harry is a walking dead.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I have many people in our society who are walking dead.
Yes.
They've given up trying to make anything of themselves. Or they'll tell you, I'm 25 years old, you know, and I didn't pass school, so I give up. What's that got to do with it? You know. A friend of mine came in the other day, he said, so you're back in town. He said, I hear you was back. I said, yeah. He said, how long you back? I said, about 8 years now. He said, well, now I know where to find you. Now you get old. You know, I know where to find you. I said, yeah, that's true. I said, until you come one day and on the office sign, you see, gone to China. Be back in 6 months. Yes. He said, why would you want to do that? I said, to go and study something.
That's right. That's right.
To go and enhance my mind a certain level. So inside this whole thing of this thing, in order to put ourselves in the middle of that, we have to put ourselves in the middle of that, as I would call it, God pretenders. Yeah. We have to be creative. And then we stop and we say, we have this thing, and this thing is time and space. And we're trapped in space. If I want to go from here to San Fernando, and I walk in, it will take me a certain time. If I run in, it will take me a certain time. If I'm in a car, it will take me a certain time. I still marvel at the fact that I put a friend on a plane, and they ring me 4 hours later, and they say, I'm in Miami, you know, several thousand miles away. So where I was thinking, if I drive into town, and the rain falling, still a reach. I stick outside Lever Brothers with water pouring across the road. Right. Yeah. You know,
that is so real.
So you have different types of reality, and you have to come to grips with this different types of reality, and you say, okay, the way how the earth spins on itself, the way how the earth goes around the sun, creates our space, and creates our sense of gravity, and also creates our time. We're stuck in space, and we're moving in time. But the time that we're moving in is fixed by the speed at which the earth goes round on itself, which is the day. So we're stuck in that. We can't get outside of that. Now, God is a wonderful being, because he makes the ability for you to go inside and get outside of this space. That's why meditation is so important. It allows you to know that there are other realities outside. And nobody tells us that when we go into that inner space, that inner space is even more real than the outer space, because it takes a much vaster plethora of information than our little space could do. Yeah. If you read the works of Lynn McTaggart, she says that they're now finding out that the memory is not stored in the brain, that the memory is stored in the darkness, in a matrix.
Yes.
And that our brain, in a superconductive state, knows how to go in there and tap the information where we want it. The more we use the brain is the more we acquire the ability to tap deeper and deeper into that space. Yes. The more we learn to meditate is the more we begin to understand how very, very fine thing works. So when a person is a shaman and he has the ability to go inside and go very deep, he might walk to a plant and pick a plant and say, this plant is good for this. And he say, well, how you know that? And he say, well, the plant is talking to me. If you don't meditate, you will never understand what he means. Never. But that whole thing, and then we have this thing of what we regard as sickness. You know, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, oh, she has a fever, and I give her something to take away the fever. I went and I get some antibiotics, and I give her to take the fever away. I said, well, for a start, the body sometimes make heat when it is in a particular situation that has nothing to do with sickness. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, if you are under a lot of stress, the body under that stress, under that electromagnetic stress, generates heat. So if you go lie down in your bed, your wife or your husband next to you say, oh, but your body running hot. You know, if you're getting old and your hormones going out of whack, they have a thing called tidal fever. You'll get a fever 6 o'clock in the evening that goes away about 8, 9 o'clock. I say, so you don't go and give a person antibiotics for that. So it means that you do not have a concept of how the body operates and what the heat is there for and why it's not there, and how to address that heat within the terms of which it is there and not any other reason. So if it is a yin deficiency, a hormonal deficiency, as you'd say in the West, then what you have to do is to supply that deficiency and the body will stop the heat immediately. Yeah. So we have wrong concepts, because in a society like the West, which is very materialistic and very domineering, okay, everything has to have a material basis to it. And the other thing about it is that if it's doing something and you think it is wrong, that you have to kill it. Right?
Yes, yes.
So that caused a problem, because the very idea of the germ theory in life means that what you say is, if you have a germ inside you and it's foreign to you, then the drug companies tell you what you do: antibiotics. Kill it.
Yes.
And if you can't kill it with it, still give it antibiotics in case it caused something else that you did. Yes. And then we find out after many years of using it that the antibiotics is not only trying to kill what you perceive to be the disease, but it's also killing you, because it's killing all your gut bacteria. And when it kills all your gut bacteria, it is destroying the very immune system that it is supposed to protect.
Yes, yes.
And so you have a lot of people now that have fungal problems, and they can't understand why they have fungal problems, because they're eating antibiotics like if it's thing. And then you have people who put in antibiotics in chicken, because when they give the chicken antibiotics and the chicken get fungus in its system, it begins to take on water and the flesh begins to blow up, and it puts on what appears to be weight. And it gets more money.
Yeah.
So we only need more money.
So when you think you get a big chicken,
Yes.
chicken full of antibiotics.
It's full of antibiotics and fungi and all kinds of other things. And then that alone don't work, so you give them some estrogen hormones too. That will help to blow them up too.
Yes, yes.
And so, you know, I'm always fascinated, because I say, this is a connection. We don't understand that we live in a web. We live in an interconnective electromagnetic web. And if you do that here, it is not only destroying you in the long run, and when I say you, I don't mean you here who has lived for 80 years, but your ancestral line. It is polluting that ancestral line. And it is not polluting it. So you could make all the money, but your whole DNA is being polluted, so that your children eventually going to deteriorate. They're not going to go up, they're going to go down. Because they're not in the creative evolution. Now, all these concepts about life, we don't know anything about it.
Yes, yes.
We don't know anything about it. And in not knowing anything about it, our concepts are so short-sighted that it doesn't make any sense. So once we get caught in space, we get caught in time, because of the vortexial action, we'll say, of our galaxy and our solar system, then we're alive, we're conscious. And in the process of being conscious, in order to keep the continuity of that conscious, we must create. Anytime we are cut off from that creation inside the human matrix, we go crazy.
Yes, yes.
If you take a person and you put them on an island to live by themselves, the only way they will keep their sanity is if they're creating. If they sit down on that beach,
they make things that are essential to their survival.
Yes, and probably even more than that.
Yes.
You know, and they will sit down waiting for a boat there to appear on the horizon. In 6 months, they're mad. They're walking around talking to themselves.
Yes.
Right? But if they're creating, if they're keeping a sense of relativity about survival, then they stay alive.
Yes.
You know. And you have a program on the television where this guy gets stranded on an island, and then you find out there's another guy there. And what the guy does, the guy makes him perform. He makes him become a Superman. He pressures him. And when he pressures him, the guy finds out that he has skills that he never even knew he had.
Yes, and would not have normally tapped it.
And he would have not normally tapped in it. So we say spin is everything, and everything follows that spin. And you go along, and you say, well, all right, that creates the day, the seasons, the years, and most people don't even know how we measure time. They don't know that the year is not a, they have calendars on the earth which follow a lunar system, and they have calendars on this earth which follow a solar system. And they're two different ones. They have different times and they move. You know, the Arabic system, because it's solar and it's lunar and it's not adjusted, it's always moving backwards. So their days of festivals move around the year. So sometimes you can have Ramadan at a certain time, and then as over a few years, that Ramadan time will gradually. The Jewish system has a correcting factor where they add an extra month every few years in order to try and bring it back. The solar system was designed to keep it steady relative to the season. So it was, if you want to call it, an improvement. So if you look at the birth of a child, the birth of a child takes 10 lunar months. 10 is the symbol for fruition, for the fruition of a creativity, an idea. If you put it into the solar time, they say about 9 months. If you put it in lunar time, it's 10 months.
10, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Plus or minus a day. If you
What accounts for the difference?
Huh?
What accounts for the difference?
Because you're measuring time differently in the sense that you're looking at the constellations on the ecliptic, and you section them up, and you say, when we reach here at such and such a day, at such and such a time, we will say that we've changed. So you then try to make the crossing of the equator by the sun a fixed time every year. March the 21st, you know, June the 21st, December the 21st, Christmas is December the 25th, so that every year you know that at that same time, and even then you're not totally right, because ever so often you had to add a few days in order to correct for it, because it will gradually, slowly shift away. So none of the time measurements that we have in terms of days and years are exactly correct. They're not set in stone, they move slightly. And besides that, you have ecliptic wobbles. You have the earth that wobbles in a certain way, and that wobble appears to set you going where you appear to be going through a certain constellation at a certain time, and that constellation time will take 2,700 years approximately. And if you look at a whole full cycle, you're looking at 20-something thousand years. So it means that you have all these turns going, and we're inside this. And the civilizations that are old, like the Vedic system, they would tell you about what happens on a cosmic day and what time you have. So you have time when the whole solar system is in the shadow of the arm that it is in, so it doesn't see the sun, so that it is a time of darkness. And when I say sun, I mean the galactic center. Now when you have that galactic center time, and when it's in that shadow, they would call that the age of Kali. That's when the goddess of darkness rules. And at times you will have it where it is in the light. It is a Shiva, you know. So you have this time when it is out, and times when it is in. And so that rules the earth. Now, you can look at it this way and say, in the last age, because of the amount of sunlight that we had, the earth built up not a layer of ozone above, but a layer of water. In order for the earth to protect its life, water vapor went up because it was running hotter, and you had a layer of water right around the earth where the ozone belt is. And they call that the golden age, because at that time the sun coming in gave it a golden color, and you didn't see the stars, as the old writings state that. And they said that at the time when that began to wane and it started to go down, then the electromagnetic field of the earth couldn't support that water layer anymore, and it fell from the heavens. And when it fell from the heavens, you had the deluge, you had the flood. So you say God closed the flood. Quite right, because of the cycles that you have. But those cycles are normal. Just as how you say, you don't say, and God caused the winter to come. Technically speaking, you're right in that the earth's wobbling, and as the earth wobbles and the sun hits it at a particular angle, it gets cooler or warmer. Right? So just as that case in the last golden age, when the golden age came to an end, the firmament fell from the heavens. That's what he says that in the book of Enoch. And the firmament fell out of the heavens and did that. And so you begin to understand that life in earth is not steady. It has times when you have times of plenty.
Yeah.
It have times, you know, there was a time when the Sahara was green and it had ports, and the Mediterranean was much bigger because the water level on the earth was higher because it had less snow. You know, and so you begin to realize that we are inside that. And you say, well, all right, what relevance is all this to me here with this thing? And I say, well, the same relevance that you have where just before Christmas, the drug companies start trying to sell you cold vaccine because that is the time when colds appear. Or as you move from dry season to rainy season, and it begins and mosquito come out, then you begin to have the dengue season or the malaria season.
Yes.
So seasons happen because of weather. Illnesses happen because of weather. Illnesses happen because of cosmic influences. This is how women menstruate according to the cosmic cycle of the moon, you know. And then you have yearly cycles of things. So I'm always amazed when you're going along, and I'd say to the girls, I say, you know, we haven't had many back problems for a little while. And I'd speak too quick. Because 3 weeks later,
You get
almost every other patient have back pain, have
Yes,
back problems.
yes,
So you
yes.
spend most of your day doing back problems.
Yes.
Or you have another time when people come in and they come in anemic, you know, and you'd have a whole run on treatment for anemia.
Yes.
And you begin to realize that these cycles, they travel in a particular way. If you look at, you know, nobody ever explains to us the mystery of life. You know, reading the other day about the gut and how the gut absorbs, and they're looking at the small intestine. And the guy says, well, in the small intestine doesn't absorb vitamins right along the whole small intestine. There's only a little piece in the small intestine where vitamins are absorbed, because the vibrational qualities in that part of the intestine is exactly the same as the vibrational things that are coming off the vitamins. Right? If you have vitamin B12 and your stomach don't make extrinsic factor, you cannot absorb the vitamin B12.
Yes.
And so you begin to understand that everything in the universe follows a rhythm, a vibrational rhythm. And in understanding that, you begin to understand that we have a place inside there. And we are attempting to make our reality, making our reality with all these systems around us.
Oh, yes, yes.
Right? If you're in Trinidad, it is a time for the dry season or a time for the wet season. During the dry season, you have certain type of fruits, and certain in the wet season, and then they have a certain time when the fish is running, when fish will be cheap in the market. Well, not anymore.
Relatively.
I mean, I remember years ago going down to Cedros, and my partner was good friends with Ramji and Ali. So we went down there one day, and they came in with the boats, and the boats were loaded with fish. And Ramji says, where are you going? I said, I'm going up home. He said, open your trunk. And I opened my car trunk, and he filled it with fish.
Wow. Yes.
Right? I said, you selling me? He said, no, we're going to throw it away and it's going to rotten. And better than do that, better to give it away. And he loaded up my trunk, and I went up home by me, and I share out fish.
Yes.
Everybody get 3 or 4 big giant carrots. You know, so sometimes you have where that happens, and sometimes you have where it disappears.
Yes. Yes.
And we have lost contact with that, you know. I am sure now that if you had a son and you living in a place where you don't have any chickens, and you tell him, draw you a chicken, he'll draw you a thing in a plastic bag with 2 drumsticks sticking up in the air. He says, that is a chicken. And if you carry him and show them a real chicken, he'll say, I just eat that. And if you happen to kill it in front of him and pull out the feathers, he definitely ain't eating it.
Yes.
So that you have this total disconnect, total disconnect from life. So once you begin to understand that you're part of this whole thing, you say, okay, but how has this affected us, right? How has this what is it about us? Is it that this is us here? Or is it that we have a whole lot of things making us up? And here again we have obfuscation. I had a pastor friend, you know, American Baptist. And I remember years ago we were sitting talking one day and he said to me, he says, well, you know, we have a soul. I said, one? He says, yes. I said, who tell you that? He says, in the Bible. I went and studied it. That's how I became a pastor. I said, well, that's very strange. I know it have 5 different names for soul in the Bible. Yeah. He says, no, have one word. I said, what's the word? He says, soul, S-O-U-L. I said, so we opened the book and I showed him common S, common O, common U, common L at the beginning of a sentence. I said, why didn't they put a capital S there? He said, well, they make a mistake. I said, go down in another place and they have capital S, capital O, capital U, capital L in the middle of a sentence. I said, so what's this? There's another phonetic mistake. He says, yes. I said, and look here. They have capital S, common O, common U, L in the middle of a sentence. He said, I don't know. I said, that's a good answer. I say, capital S, capital O, capital U, capital L is a very poor translation for the word neshama. Spirit is a very imprecise word for ruach. I said, common S, common O, common U, L is an imprecise word for nefesh. He says, what are you talking about? I said, go check it. Go get you a Bible that have Jewish in it, Jewish thing and and check it and see the word. And then look up your Jewish dictionary and come back and tell me. And he tell me, he says, you know, you're right, you know. I say, so you are teaching something and you don't know that you have 3 different words for the basic levels of souls. One is your animal soul, right? One is your emotional soul, and one is your mental soul. Each of them carry their own body. Your energy carry your own body, your nefesh. I say, and if you look a little bit closer, you will see that in the biblical terms, when a baby is born, a male baby, it is circumcised on the 8th day after its birth. He says, yeah, that's true. I said, why? He says, I don't know. So, for a pastor, you really don't know a lot of things. I said, that is the time that it takes for the nefesh to concretize in the body. I say, if you are a nurse, you tell the mother, if the baby lives for a week, the chances are it will continue living.
Yes.
Right? You do it on the 8th day, so you concretize the situation before the nefesh comes in. I say, and if you look again, you'll see that you have the other one. I say, so let's look at dying rituals. I say, you die. What do you do after that? I say, you bury the person. I say, what do you do after that? He says, well, you have a 9-night prayer. I say, why you have a 9-night prayer? He said, well, that's the prayer. I say, oh, no, but why? I say, that is because when you bury somebody or you burn somebody, it takes 9 days for the nefesh to deteriorate. During that time, the people in the house will tell you, hey, I could have swear he was just walking here. I could have swear he was just there. Last night I thought he climbed in the bed with me. After 9 days, that disappears. It disappears because the nefesh has deteriorated, or the nefesh is supposed to have deteriorated.
Yes. Yeah.
You get my choice of words?
Yes.
Because if the nefesh doesn't deteriorate and it has passion, then what you have is a ghost. And you could say what
and
the
nefesh is a form of the
soul. It's a form of the soul. It's the first level of the soul.
Right.
Just as how you have the ruach, which is the emotional part of the soul. And without the emotion, nothing happens. So you say, if you have an idea and you wish to bring the idea into fruition, you want to work for it.
Yeah.
First you have to visualize the idea, and then you have to believe in it very strongly.
Of course.
You have to put your emotion into it. If you don't have any emotion, your passion, it ain't happening. Because you'll go out to do it, and the first obstacle that you meet and it knock you down,
you're ready to drop that.
This too hard, you know. Let me go and have a drink.
I can't make.
I can't make. Let me go drink, right? Or let me go do something. So that you begin to understand that the whole passion about life, the whole thing about life, is that you must have your passion. And that is a soul that is in your body. That's an energy body. And you take it back and you say, all right, let's carry it back. And you say, Christ went into the desert and he went to meditate. Right? You went to meditate, and what happened? How long you meditated for? 40 days.
Yes, yes.
And what happened at the end of the 40 days? A dude came along, that we just called the devil, and he said, big man, you want this? Just lime with me a little bit now. I can give you all of that.
It could be all yours.
So he tempted him, and he tempted him emotionally. He tempted him with lure, with things that would make him feel better. Fall along and worship me, and all this will be yours. He didn't say, I'm going to give you the power over this kingdom. He didn't say that, which would have been a mental activity. He tell him, hey, I'll give you all this.
Yes.
Right? And this Rolls Royce car I have here, you got to keep that one time too. You know what I mean?
A gold one.
I ain't getting no parts to it. So when it break down in the desert, you're dead. Or it run out of gas. You will find out, because all these things always have hidden things to it that you don't
That's
see.
right. Yes.
Right? So then that is the ruach. And then you have the neshama, which is the mental aspect. And you will do a prayer 1 year after the person is dead to make sure that goes along. So the real soul, which is the immortal soul, can go away with its things to do whatsoever it has to do. In the Christian faith, they'll tell you, well, it's either you go to hell or heaven. In some faiths, they tell you, well, when you finish that, you recycle yourself and you come back in
Yes.
to go again.
Yes.
It's very interesting that that you have that, and in the Christian churches, they say that it doesn't have reincarnation. But if you read some of the old books, like the Pistis Sophia, which is one of the older books that they took out of the Bible, that one inside there, Mary Magdalene, who is supposed to be Christ's favorite disciple in that book, ask him, she says, why does the Father draw the veil of forgetfulness upon us between lives? And he turned and he tells her, he says, so you do not bring the burden of the sins from a past life into this life. And in his benevolence, he allows you to start over with your attributes so that you could eventually get closer and closer to him.
Yes.
So there is no hint about hell. There's only, except it's your own personal hell you're going to make because you do nonsense. But there is a case of where you constantly advancing. The whole universe is advancing in a particular way, and you advance. I don't think that suited some people.
Yes.
This idea of advancement. But anyhow, what you're saying is that you have all these levels, and these levels interplay. It is very interesting that if you have a person and they suffer a mental shock, and they have another personality, that person, in some cases, they would say is possessed, and in the other thing, they call it a multiple personality disorder.
Yes.
Right?
But I think that's where we'd have to wrap it up for today.
Yeah, we'll catch it going another
we'll catch
time.
it in the other program. We'll continue this discussion on mind, soul, and body. And so we want to invite our viewers to join us for another program of Empower Health. And of course, as I always say, if you have any gray areas or so on, anything you'd like to help, just drop us a line, docmyers@yahoo.com, and we'll be all too pleased to pass on the additional information to you on the program. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you around for another edition of Empower Health.